Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will speak about the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, text 15, which speaks about communication skills. Now, it's not described as communication skills, but it's described as austerity of speech. But in any case, this kind of speaking requires discipline. So the verse goes like this: Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Let us first read the translation of synonyms. Anudvega karam, not agitating. Vakyam, words. Satyam, truthful. Priya, dear. Hitam, beneficial. Cha, also. Yat, which. Svadhyaya, of Vedic study. Abhyasanam, practice. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Vakmayam, of the voice. Tapaha, austerity. Uchyate, is said to be. So, this is Bhagavad Gita 17:15, chapter 17, text 15. Chapter is called The Divisions of Faith. So this is the chapter before the last. The last chapter is chapter 18. Okay, so let's go to translation. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Purport: one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There is a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. So let us read the Sanskrit again. Thank you very much for being so enthusiastic and sending all these likes and hearts and smileys, emojis. Nisha Patel, Sucharita Basak, Jai Deb Saha, Megha Palekar, Debashish Mukherjee, Kamala Prasal, Uttama Nitairama Das, Sanjeev Kumar, Bhupinder Damia, Anu Garg, and Srinivas Katavate. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sanityagi, Dilip Vagela, Dharmadas Hazra Chaudhary. So many wonderful devotees are online here. Thank you very much. It says 66. There is 66 devotees online here. Okay, so let us read the Sanskrit again. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat svadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. Let us read once again. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat svadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. It is said that Vedic literature should be read 3 times minimum, so let us read it once again. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat svadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. So anudvega karam, not agitating, vakyam, words. This is immediately the beginning of the verse is anudvega, not anudvega karam, not agitating. So we want to speak in such a way as to inspire people, support people. We don't want to disturb them. But Srila Prabhupada in the purport immediately after mentioning this, that one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others, he immediately mentions that the teacher, he can speak the truth, which is sometimes not easy to hear. So he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but he should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. In other words, you can speak to people who are not your students, but not in such a way as to agitate their minds. At least this is how I understand this. Now, Jesus said, and the truth will set you free. And sometimes we say, and the truth will set you free, but first it will disturb you. Because it's not easy sometimes to hear the truth about ourselves and what we need to change. And I think many people like to avoid facing the facts of life, facing the truth, and facing what they need to change themselves in their own behavior or their own character. So this is something that is only for those who are serious about spiritual progress and who are not fearful, who are bold, who have spiritual warrior mindset. So sometimes the teachers will say something that will be disturbing, and also it is described that sharp words of a sadhu are there to cut the attachment, our attachment to the material world. And therefore people don't like to hear the lectures of spiritual people because they speak about what we need to change and what we need to confront in life. And conditioned soul tolerates insults from his family members and still continues working and maintaining them, supplying money. But when a saintly person speaks sharp words, that conditioned soul runs away and doesn't want to come back, avoids classes. Maybe you go to kirtan, maybe you go and put a donation in the box in the temple, and of course you go to take prasadam time. But lecture is not pleasant to hear, because if I hear the class, I will have to hear that I have to surrender to Krishna, that I have to serve Krishna, that I have to give up sense gratification, that I have to engage in austerities, and this is not for me. So of course it's not for you if you don't want it, and if you don't understand why it is good for you. You don't understand the benefits of this. You don't understand that ultimately you will be the one who gains the most by listening, by hearing. And therefore Shravanam is the most important process. Without Shravanam, any other process of devotional service will not work well. Then Srila Prabhupada says, one should not speak nonsense. One should not talk nonsense. So nonsense refers to all kinds of prajalpa. Prajalpa means empty talk. One should not speak about insignificant things, material things, sense gratification, mundane topics, Bollywood, Hollywood. One should speak based on the scriptures. One should speak about self-realization. One should speak about service of the Lord. One should speak about how we can help each other succeed. And when you speak in spiritual circles, and even if you speak not in spiritual circles, in other circles, we always say something that is supported by the scriptures. We always speak based on the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't concoct something. We can speak about our realization in relation to the scriptures, in relation to the verses, but we always, the content of what we say is supported by the scriptures. So one has to back up what he is saying by the scriptural authority. And what is the scripture? Scripture is either words of God or of his pure devotees who are dedicated to him, who are devoted to him. So scriptural authority means words of God or of his dedicated servants. And then such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. So you can tell different stories, you can explain different points, you can speak nicely in a cultured way, and so that people are attracted and that they understand the stories, understand the points there, understand the message. And also one should speak in such a way so that people understand that if I follow these instructions, I will be benefited. So in other words, what's in it for them? What's in it for me? So when we speak, we want to say things that in such a way that it will be clear that there is something to gain by following the instructions of the scriptures. And these kind of discussions are called Krishna Katha, and they are the most valuable. And Srila Prabhupada says, by such discussions one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. And also, you're not only elevated human society by speaking Krishna Katha, by speaking from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but you also elevate yourself. So it's a double benefit. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. So the highest benefit is raising consciousness, raising one's consciousness. developing spiritual understanding, developing enthusiasm to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the highest benefit is elevating human society by elevating their consciousness. Today's people's consciousness is not very high. They are engaged in all kinds of sinful activities, and they are engaged in all kinds of misuse of the resources given by nature. And then where do you get content or material for such discussion? Srila Prabhupada says, limitless stock of Vedic literature. One should study the Vedic literature. And therefore we have been given by Srila Prabhupada not limitless but huge stock of Vedic literature in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, Sri Ishopanishad, Nectar of Instruction, Teachings of Queen Kunti, Teachings of Lord Kapila Dev, Beyond Birth and Death, The Science of Self-Realization, Perfection of Yoga, The Path of Perfection, and many other books. And devotees have done a very good job. Devotees would turn Srila Prabhupada's lectures into a book. For example, the small pocket book, The Perfection of Yoga, is made of his lectures on the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There is also On the Way to Krishna, small book, which is also based on his classes on the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And I think Path of Perfection also is based on the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then, for example, the book called The Second Chance is based on the story from Srimad Bhagavatam of Ajamil. The whole story of Ajamil and his personal transformation. So you can make books out of lectures, and I have also tried to make an ebook out of my seminar about excuses. So if anyone of you is interested in the ebook about excuses, I can send it to you. Or you can find it on my Gita Coaching group, Facebook group. There is a Gita Coaching Facebook group. So when we read about excuses that we make, then we can learn how to eliminate them. Now, another thing I would like to say about the austerity of speech, actually about following this verse, is that you can use these instructions also for your internal dialogue, how you talk to yourself. Now this is, if you read this verse, it's obvious that it refers to communicating with others, speaking something aloud. But also within our mind, we can try to speak words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to ourselves or to our mind, and to regularly have the content of Vedic literature in our mind, thinking about different stories, thinking about different philosophical points, thinking about different instructions, different inspirations from the scriptures, different verses which inspire us. So austerity of speech, austerity of internal dialogue, or austerity of thinking. Now regarding the mind, in the next verse, the austerity of the mind is also described, and it also has to do with how we think. And we will speak about this verse some other time. For now, we are talking about verse 17-15. Now, let us speak a little bit about, is this really austerity or penance? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says this is called penance of speech. So is this really austerity or penance? Maybe in the beginning it can be an austerity, but after some time this becomes actually a great pleasure. To speak words that are truthful, to speak words that are pleasing, to speak words that are beneficial, to not speak words that agitate others, and to regularly recite and read the Vedic literature. So this is not austerity. This is actually nectar. This is very, very pleasant. So thank you very much for listening and for sending all these messages. 6 people, now is 31 online. And I see here Giant Tripati, Yash Upal, Brijesh Soni, Rosie Davan, Genri Lao, Luka Uršić, Mantesh Jha, Yash Upal, Bimla Bardwaj, Ziofar Prakash, Sam Singh, Vanaja R, Dipankar Sarkar, P. Sharma, Sonal Kamani, Pankaj Gupta, etc. So thank you very much for listening. I don't want to make a too long class, but I hope I have given you some food for thought, and I have given you a tool directly from the Bhagavad Gita for your life. How do you talk to yourself? How do you develop a high-class spiritual and positive inner dialogue? And how do you communicate with other people in a way that inspires both you and them? So thank you very much for listening, and hope